It's not so nice up in, I think it's California, in that area today. A storm is rolling in or something like that. It's very cold. It's even snowing in the Mediterranean right now. But not there in Barbados, okay? So welcome to Barbados, okay? My name is James. Welcome to George Washington House and welcome to Barbados's historic garrison. Before we talk about George, because I know that this is a sort of a two-pronged tour for you guys. You're here to learn about George Washington's visit to Barbados. You're here to look at the house that he stayed in. You're also here to look at our garrison tunnels. But before we get into any explanation of George's visit, let me tell you a little bit about our historic garrison. Okay? Our historic garrison is part of our UNESCO World Heritage Site. That means our garrison is very important. It is the most complete and authentic 18th, 19th century garrison anywhere in the world. It is a direct result of George Washington's visit to Barbados 40 years earlier. So George Washington visited Barbados in 1751. In 1789, this garrison was established by the British, the same year that George Washington became the first president of the United States. This garrison functioned until 1905. That's 116 years. During the height of operations, this garrison accommodated 3,000 soldiers, and they lived all around you here. So the garrison basically is divided into two layers. There's an upper layer and a lower layer. We're standing in the upper layer, and this was the accommodation section of the garrison. This is where all the troops lived. Okay? The lower lands of the garrison is where the workshops were, the warehousing was. This is where all the forces landed, all the goods landed, all the supplies landed, and forces went out from the lower lands as well to other islands in the West Indies. Okay? So the garrison is very important. It's unique and significantly important globally. Now, let's talk about George Washington. Okay? George Washington arrived in Barbados on the 2nd of November, 1751. He was here with his older half-brother, Lawrence Washington. Lawrence Washington was dying of tuberculosis, and he was looking for a climate that might help his condition. Barbados, being one of the wealthiest colonies within the British Empire and one of the wealthiest places in the world at the time, was a place where there was also good medicine. So this was a good place for Lawrence Washington to come and see if he could get some help for his condition. The reason that George was with him was because Lawrence's wife, who had had 3 miscarriages, had just recently had a young daughter. And she couldn't leave her daughter behind. She had to stay behind with her daughter in Virginia. Someone needed to help Lawrence along the journey, and George was selected for the job. He was 19 years old. Lawrence was 14 years older than George was. So George was basically the bag carrier for Lawrence Washington on this journey. It was a 6-week journey from Virginia to Barbados by sea. When they arrived in Barbados, the house that they were meant to stay in had been struck with smallpox. So they needed to find alternative accommodation. So they spent a couple of nights in Bridgetown, our capital city, and looked around. And they ended up selecting this place. They stayed here and they paid £15 a month for this accommodation. That is equivalent to about $3,000 a month today. So it was quite expensive. This was not a stately home. This was basically a simple residence. Okay? The home had an entrance hall, a dining room, 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, and there was an attic or dormer floor above. That's what they found when they got there. That's what they paid. We're going to move around to that piece of shade now, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the house.